Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Shaw Local Bears Insider Podcast. I am Chicago Bears beat reporter Michael Dwojak here with the Northwest Herald's Joe Aguilar as we are joining you on Monday afternoon podcast for you folks because we are talking about another crazy win for the Chicago Bears. This time it was special teams who won the game to finish things off. Devin Duvernay with the big return, Cairo Santos with the big kick to make it a 19-17 Bears win over the Minnesota Vikings on Sunday. The Bears improved to 7-3 overall, pick up their first NFC North win of the season. And Joe, I don't know at this point. I mean, they just continuously – I think there's one thing – we'll get into the game-to-game stuff and, all the different moments and all the different fun stuff. But there was that moment at 50 seconds left. The Bears get the ball back. They had just scored a touchdown, Minnesota. And I was just kind of like, I mean, the Bears are going to win this game. I don't know how fans felt, but I was just kind of sitting there up in the press box. And I was like, I've seen this story too many times at this point. Like usually it's been the opposite. It's like, how are the Bears going to blow this? Now the narrative is, oh, how are the Bears going to pull this one off this time?
Well, first of all, congratulations, because you called it. Didn't you say in our Friday podcast, I think Cairo Santos wins it on a walk-off field goal. I think you called it. I think you also
did say that.
Kicked like a 70-yard field goal, but he didn't do that. No, did you say he was going to kick like a 55-yarder? But I think you said, I think it's going to be close, come down to the end, and Cairo's going to win it on a walk-off field goal. And lo and behold, that's what happened. So congratulations, first of all. Do you remember saying that?
I do remember saying that. Now that you reminded me, I didn't think about that at all actually all weekend. And I was like, wait, I did say that. I'm a genius. Why have I not been playing this up more? I should have been doing that.
Crystal ball say for next week, Michael. Yeah. I'll have to wait till Friday, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, Michael, we've seen this, right? Let's see. The quarterback is inaccurate. He holds the ball too long. The defense generates no pass rush, but the quarterback doesn't turn the ball over. And the Bears figure out a way in the fourth quarter down the stretch to pull out victory. And that's been the story like almost every single game this year. It was like we were watching the same game. I think they've played 10 games. 5 of them now have come down in the final couple minutes of the game, if not the last seconds of the game. So how about that? 5 of those games now. And the good news for me is like I've already got enough gray hair. I really can't get any more, but for you young guys and all you Bears fans out there, man, this has been that kind of year. But 7-3 is 7-3, I guess.
Yeah, it's a crazy one. We'll recap it this afternoon here. If you're joining us on the YouTube live stream, thank you so much for joining us. If you're joining us on the Facebook live streams, I know we've been trying to do that the last couple of times here. Happy to have you guys. Excited to have you guys join us. Make sure you get all your questions in there, comments, whatever thoughts about Sunday's game. We're happy to answer them, talk about them. But we appreciate you guys joining us. Make sure you give us a like when you're here, whether it's on Facebook or give us a like on the YouTube stream. That's the best way to support us and help this thing grow even more and help other Bears fans find us and join us in for our conversations. And if you're listening on the podcast, thank you so much for listening on the podcast. Make sure you give us a like there as well if you want to join us and be part of the conversation. Check out our social medias. We'll usually post when we'll be talking on Mondays and Fridays. All right, Joe. For those who don't know, if we're getting a lot of new people, every game day after games, we like to do 3 winners and 3 losers from every game. We find that's the best way to kind of break down everything that kind of happened over the game, and it's a good way to kind of just talk about everything that happened. Joe, I'll let you start off here. Who is your first winner from the third straight last-minute win for this Bears team?
Well, I'll go with one of the obvious ones. That's got to be Devin Duvernay, right? It's funny because I read your story. Good job, as always, your story on Caleb's game. Like I had a feeling, and he talked to Duvernay before the game. But, Michael, every time Duvernay gets his hands on a ball, whether it's a kick return or a punt return, I'm thinking, this guy's kind of due to break one. But he hasn't done it. Now, the good news with him is he hasn't muffled any punts or kickoffs. No Velus Jones moments for him. So he's just been steady, and ultimately that's what you want your return guy to do, right? Don't drop the damn ball and don't create, which is basically a turnover. And so he hasn't done that all year. And then finally, when they needed it most, I don't know what I can't imagine what the Vikings fans are and their social media or their podcast guys or radio guys are talking about today with allowing that big kickoff in the final minute after the Vikings went ahead. But Duvernay, who's been a good pro in this league, he's been a Pro Bowl returner, I believe. He's been a good player, and he finally had his moment, quote unquote, as a Bear, and certainly couldn't have come at a better time. So I'm going to go with Devin Duvernay as one of my winners.
Yeah, thanks for the plug, Joe. Yeah, that was kind of the lead of my story. I'm just talking about, Caleb just, he talked after the game, post game. He went up to Devin Duvernay, and for some reason he just felt the need to tell him like he was going to make a play today. Like they would, like, it wasn't like a thing that they do every single week. They like talk sometimes if they pass each other or whatever. Like they'll say, things you say to your teammates right before or whatever. But he talked after the game about, for some reason he just felt like Duvernay was going to make a play, and he did. That's kind of been the one thing that I've kind of been interested in, because I think that, Duvernay's really, he's had a couple kickoffs where he's returned them pretty well, but for what the special teams unit has been this year, it's been called back because of penalties, right? Like that's kind of been something that's really hurt him this year. So it was great to see him just kind of see the green space on his right side. He came from his left to his right. Josh Blackwell had a really good block that kind of forced this guy to, he kind of took away that threat, and you obviously set up the situation there. So yeah, I think that was a big moment for Duvernay, because Duvernay is a former All-Pro. Like he was a really good returner, and it still is a good returner, but you just didn't see it consistently with Chicago this year. And I think it's a really big win for him, just being able to make an impact. Sometimes they get him in offensively, but he's been doing punt and kick returns. So it was a good moment just to kind of see Devin kind of get involved in the special teams, the way that I think a lot of Bears fans thought he could when they made the signing over the offseason.
Yeah, and remember a couple of years ago when they signed, maybe it's been 2 or 3 years at least, Ted Ginn, who was at the end of his career. Yeah, like he just, like you could tell, like he was done playing football, so he would just let the ball bounce and get out of the way. Like he was, it's like Duvernay hasn't been doing the stupid things too, which matter. He hasn't been like fair catching at the 3-yard line and things like that. He's been catching the ball, and ultimately that's all you want from your return guy. And so it's nice to see him have a moment like that yesterday.
All right, my first winner of the game is I'll go with I always save this for the end with my winners, just because if I can't think of one, or I think it's been consistent for this, but I'm going to start off with them. It has to be this coaching staff. I mean, it just the turnaround that this we will get into. Listen, there are negatives from this game. A lot of stuff did not go well, and for it to even get to a game-winning kick, like obviously this is, we'll get into the negative part. We're starting off with the positive. So you have to give this coaching staff so much credit, because this entire season was supposed to be flush out everything that happened last year, flush out all the negativity, all the bad habits, all the bad stuff that happened last year, just flush it, get rid of it, just, get rid of everything involved with that former coaching staff and the culture that they had built there. And I think heading into this year, most fans were like, let's be in playoff contention. I want to see them look more disciplined, act better, and I want to see Caleb play better, right? And I think you've seen that all for the most part. We'll get into the Caleb conversation, obviously. But I think there is, without a doubt, that this coaching staff has just made a complete 180 with this team. This team believes that they can win any single game, even if they're like, whatever the instances are. You can just tell that whole locker room has bought into what Ben Johnson is doing. It's not just Ben Johnson. It's the experience that Dennis Allen brings, Eric Bieniemy, Antoine Randall, Al Harris, like the whole coaching staff just brings in a lot of different experiences, but it starts with the guy up top, right? Like Ben Johnson came in, and I think everyone was just like, he's this offensive mastermind. He's just going to throw a lot of trick plays. We don't know what he's like as a coach. I think you've seen that he's been a perfect coach for what this team is. Now, does that mean that they're going to win a Super Bowl one year, or it's going to be great next year? No, we've seen plenty of coaches win Coach of the Year their first year, and then it all flames out moving forward, right? But I think, what are we now? 10 games into the season, there is little doubt in my mind that they got the right guy, and there's little doubt in my mind that this winning is because of Ben Johnson and the culture that he's instilled in Halas Hall.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and part of the evolution, part of the progression of a football team is believing you can win and winning games in the end, when you got to come from behind or you got to put away a victory. Now, they had an opportunity to put that one away in the fourth quarter. They didn't. But this belief on the fourth quarter, like even my gosh, even as a Bears fan, I'm like 50 seconds to go, down one. It stinks. They shouldn't have been in this spot, but yeah, they got plenty of time. A year ago, are you kidding me? That game's over. So they had 50 seconds. And I wasn't expecting the long, 50-some yard return by Duvernay. I figured Caleb would make some big throws because he's done that. We've seen that many times down the stretch here. Get him close, get him in field goal range, then cross your fingers that the kicker makes the field goal from however many yards. But the belief, I mean, you can tell all the guys have bought in. Now, winning helps that. And if you lose in a row, guys start to doubt you. But the quarterback continues to frustrate us, and we has good moments, and you're like, yes, and then, oh my gosh, what's going on here? But I've had really believed in the coaching staff for a while now. That said, I was a little disappointed with Dennis Allen and the defense. Just for them to generate zero pressure. And by the way, I'm done picking Montez Sweat as my MVP going into games because I've done it twice now. He was bad, and then yesterday, for the first time in a long time, he was barely noticeable during the game. So, but they won. But the coaching staff, absolutely props to those guys.
It goes back to kind of that stupid saying that I know, you say, it's the very obvious of like, you need to learn how to win. And you're kind of like, well, duh, obviously. But like, if you're not winning these type of games, how are you going to win these type of games against the Eagles, right? Against the Packers. And I'm not here to tell you that they're going to beat those teams just because they've won 3 straight last-minute games against bad teams. I'm not here to tell you that, but it matters, right? You have to have those experiences. You need to learn. It's like for being like a reporter, like you need to learn how to write quickly to meet deadline, right? Like that's just our own little niche thing. But like the first time you do it, you're just kind of like, what the heck is this? Like this is insane. Like why would anyone do this? But then once you learn what works and what doesn't and all that sort of stuff, like that's how you learn to do it. So big props to the coaching staff for once again. It was far from it's far from a perfect product. There are so many changes to make. And I think that's the biggest thing where you see these post-game videos and, the good, better, best, all that kind of stuff that they do. With that, every single time, I feel like Ben starts it off saying, imagine how much better we're going to be when we're not getting in our own way, when we're not making mistakes, when we're playing to our full potential. And I think that's a really important thing that he keeps repeating, where he's not satisfied with what's happening. He's not saying, oh, it's great that you guys did this. He always reinforces the point of, if this is what we're doing when we're not playing clean football, imagine what we're going to be like when we finally play to our potential. So that's a big credit to what Ben Johnson has done with the Bears.
Absolutely.
All right, Joe, who is your second winner?
Second winner, I don't think I've used this one all season, but I'm going to go with a plural here, the tight ends, Kmet and Colston Loveland, especially in the second half. And Cole Kmet, during the game, is all of a sudden like he's catching passes. Like, what? Cole Kmet's catching passes. He's back. I didn't realize going into that game yesterday, I think he had 11 receptions on the season. Now, this is a guy who's caught 70 passes before in a season, and I know it was with different offenses and all that stuff. But we know he's not a great tight end, but he's a good tight end. But to see that he had only, I think it was 11, shocked me. So yesterday he had 5 catches, a season high for Cole Kmet. But I thought he was good, and Loveland again. And what I liked is that they weren't just catching the pass and going down. They, big, strong boys, both of them. They were catching the ball and running guys over, getting the first down. And Caleb needed that because, my goodness, the first half, I know guys, there were some drops again, not as bad as the previous week at Soldier Field, but Caleb wasn't great. So then when he started the second half, the third quarter in particular, I thought just checking down, going to Loveland, going to Kmet, and those guys really delivered. I think Colston Loveland had 3 catches, Kmet 5. So 8 catches from your tight ends for, I think, 85 yards total for the 2 of them. I thought it was good. And even the Smythe guy, did he end up getting another 1 catch? They overruled it. It was a drop. Did he have a catch too, or maybe not? But he was on the field, and they actually threw him a couple passes. So the tight ends, good job, because there weren't too many positives on offense.
Yeah, that's something that we've been looking for all season, right? Like get the tight ends involved. You can use both Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland as weapons, right, at the same time in the 12 personnel. And we haven't seen that this year. And part of that is injury, right? Like Colston Loveland had dealt with the hip injury that kept him out for a game, 2 games essentially. Cole Kmet obviously had his issues with his back and this sort of stuff. So, and Ben said at the beginning of the season, like, I need to get the tight ends more involved after that 0-2 start. But I think Sunday was a good, example of what can happen if you use your personnel out there to their full potential. Like Caleb was able to find Cole Kmet for, it would be like a 3-yard pass, and then Cole would add 5 yards on Yak, right? Because just the tough way that he runs and, goes after guys. And Colston does the same stuff, right? Like guys try to bring him down and they can't. So that has to be really encouraging just to get those guys involved. Caleb, talked about it yesterday after the game, was like, yeah, and he kind of turned it into a whole thing about the whole offense about, they have a lot of talented guys and they can make a lot of plays. And you've got talented guys in your tight end room, especially since you decided to invest in Loveland with the first round pick this year. So I think that was a really encouraging thing to see. So hopefully the Bears are able to kind of continue that moving forward.
Yeah. Smythe did have a catch yesterday for 8 yards. So yeah. So good. What's that? 9 catches? 9 catches by the tight ends.
My big winner is Nahshon Wright. Obviously, he had that huge interception that kept the Vikings off the board to end the first half. So that obviously was big in its own right. But just given the week that Nahshon had, he tragically loses his former his former college football coach. To a shooting last week. That's John Beam. He was shot at the end of last week and then died the next day. Wright talked with us after the game and said, he just spent time with him when his brother was in town with the Saints last month, and that was just an emotional moment for him. Just he went up there and made another play, and that's all he's done this entire season. I feel like when the Bears made that signing over the offseason, it was like, all right, like that's a depth guy. Like that's kind of like a buy low kind of deal, right? Like he has the tangibles. Maybe it'll work out. It didn't work out in Minnesota. It didn't work out with Dallas. Maybe it'll work out here. And I know, people like to give him a hard time sometimes. Sometimes he gets picked on. Sometimes, it doesn't look perfect. But for a guy that no one really had many expectations for this season, he's been really important for you this year, just stepping in for Jalen Johnson when he was out. And, he has, 4 interceptions this season. That's a career high. He's really made a lot of big plays for you this year. So for him to, have that moment, after he caught the touchdown, he kind of knelt down and, took in the moment and, and his teammates kind of surrounded him. That was just a really special moment just for him to first go up there and make that was a really good interception. Like that was just he jumped backwards and just kind of caught it, and that just felt like a really cool moment. So I was really happy for Nahshon just to have that moment and to kind of get that opportunity to honor his former coach.
Yeah, great pick by you there, and you're right. I mean, he high-pointed that interception. Maybe you learned from last week when he dropped the one almost like in the identical spot in the end zone, that left corner. But you're right. I mean, no one's expecting him to be one of the best coverage guys in the league or in the division. But considering how banged up their secondary has been, even going back to camp, no, I mean, look, if you're looking at like who's been the Bears' most valuable defensive player this year, I don't know if I have an answer, but he'd get votes. He would when you consider how many guys have not been able to play for whatever reason. He's stepped in. He's been super reliable. Yeah, he gets picked on sometimes, like you said, but 4 interceptions is 4 interceptions, and we still got 7 games left to go.
Right.
So you're getting. I mean, this is like the guy who hits 220, but he's got 28 home runs. Well, okay, then you're giving me something. You're making some big plays, and he's done that pretty consistently. So. Again, when we talked to beginning, like who's going to be the best defensive player in the Bears or the most valuable defensive Bear, he wasn't even in the picture. He wasn't even in like maybe category, outside shot category, nowhere. So good for that young man, especially like I said with his college coach being murdered during the week. A big moment for him, and I didn't realize that. That's why it was so emotional when he got the interception after the game. But props to that young man.
Yeah, and it's been great to see the Bear. He shared that moment with Al Harris after the game. After the interception, he had that interception. Al's been so instrumental to Nashawn's career. They were together in Dallas and played a big role in him kind of coming here to Chicago as well. So, yeah, a really great moment for Nashawn and for the Bears just to have that moment of proving himself that a lot of people doubted him. Obviously, there's a reason he went to Laney College and all this sort of stuff. So it's a big moment for him just to kind of prove, hey, I'm in the NFL. I'm making interceptions and I'm making an impact in an NFL game. Mm-hmm. All right, Joe, who is your final winner from yesterday?
There's not many. There weren't a lot of options, Michael, as you know, but I'll go with DeAndre Swift. I mean, 90 yards yesterday. Kind of, again, we talked, I think the previous week we had a quietly good game. I think yesterday was the same, but he continued to get big yards when they needed it. Especially it was the last play before the field goal to win it, where he got a nice chunk of yards, 5-6 yards, whatever it was. But he's just been consistently good here, and I know. You want the team to be winning because of the quarterback, but the running back's been probably your best offensive player this year consistently, including the receivers. It's hard to clump the linemen in there with that, but I mean DeAndre's been good. He was good yesterday. He was their best offensive threat yesterday with Caleb's inconsistencies. But DeAndre Swift, another strong game, and I'd have to look at his overall numbers now, but. He's having after that slow start to the season when they couldn't run the ball with anybody. They could have had, pick your running back in the league. They could have had Saquon and it wasn't working. But since they've gotten it figured out, we seem to be talking about it every week now. But he's really putting together a good season, DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, he is. And it was good to see him. And I want to touch on that a little bit with the negatives about why we went away from the run and that sort of stuff. But it was good to see him pick up a good performance, especially for a guy who's been dealing with injuries. He's, I know he was full and there wasn't a doubt that he was going to play, but really good stuff from him once again, as the Bears have really gotten their run game going, thanks to, Swift and Manungai, but also the great run blocking you're seeing there. All right, my final winner is going to be kind of a combo. First is Kevin Byard. Kevin Byard picked up his 5th interception of the season. What a big season for him. Yeah. He read that play perfectly. He confused JJ McCarthy on that throw. He made him think that he was going to do one thing. Kevin Byard comes back, picks off the pass, returns it up, and Bears score only a field goal on that after he gets it. Well, I forget what it was, like to the Minnesota 25 or something. But Kevin Byard continues to be an impactful player on this team this year. Joe, you were talking about who would be the defensive MVP for this season. I think Tremaine Edmonds has done an amazing job this season as your will. He's all over the place. He's making an impact. I think he would make a strong candidate. But I think Kevin Byard would either be 1A or 1B right there. I mean, he's got 5 interceptions. First time he's done this since 2021 with the Tennessee Titans. 4th time in his career. Kevin Byard, at first, last year he was a big vocal leader, but the production was kind of there, not there. It was kind of, you kind of got what you kind of expected. But this year, in a contract year when the Bears really need him, Kevin Byard has really made the huge impact for that defense. And you've seen it. He is leading the league with interceptions, and that's just a really impressive feature to be doing.
Yeah, no, great call here. You're right. I think if we were calling it today, who's been the Bears MVP on defense? Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's Byard. I mean, and it's funny because last year it was like, well, maybe he's just starting to show his age. He's been in the league almost 10 years. It is what it is. You're taking a flyer on a guy who's been good but not great. Last 2-3 years, but he's been great this year. I mean, 5 interceptions, and they've been big ones. And you know what? The leadership has been there well before this season. But every time you hear him during the week after a game, he just sounds. It's like, yeah, I want that guy on my team. I want that guy in the huddle when the game matters, whether it's the first series or at the end. Byard's a pro. And, man, I know it's way too early to call out who's making the Pro Bowl. Hopefully the Bears will have some guys on there this year. I think he's got a real good opportunity because he's been really impressive.
Robert chiming in from across the pond. Great to hear from you, Robert. Byard is looking very confident on the field, getting those picks. They are unlucky deflections. It's like he knows they are coming. And he does know because he spent so much time studying film like that. He's done that a lot this year where I think maybe a couple of those. I think one of the Dallas ones was a deflection one, and I forget what other one. But when he picked off Geno Smith earlier in the year, he knew what the play was going to be, and he knew exactly where the ball was going to be. Yesterday, he knew JJ McCarthy was going to bite, and he was going to try to get there. And he thought he had Nahshon Wright beat, but instead, Byard drops back in coverage and helps him out. So I think that Byard, this is kind of proving where, okay, maybe he isn't what he was when he was 22. I don't think any of us are who we are when we were 22, especially physically. But I think he's making up for it, obviously, with what he's doing in the study room, in the film room. And it's made a really big impact for him. So that's been really impressive just to kind of see the impact that he's been able to have, where I agree with you, where I was kind of like, all right, Kevin Byard is a great leader on the field. He's a good guy you want in your room. He's a good glue guy, and maybe he'll make some plays for me from time to time. But he's doing it all this year. He's getting you big plays on the field, and he's also being a very vocal, important leader for that defense. One more winner, Jill. I'm surprised we didn't go to this one. As a seventh one, I'm going to give Cairo his flowers. I know he pushed left on a 40-yard kick, but I think that just says a lot for him to kind of come back and make that game-winning field goal. Listen, he shouldn't have missed that kick, but sometimes it just kind of happens. He said he didn't know exactly after the game what the particular reason why was he missed. He said maybe his steps were wrong or something like that. But for Ben Johnson to have the trust in Cairo that, hey, shake it off, redeem yourself, win us this game, and for Cairo to go out there, and he said he was just praying to get one more moment just to kind of prove himself and kind of redeem himself for his team after he felt that he kind of put his team in a bad situation. It was a good moment to see Cairo make that kick.
Well, it's funny because I was torn. Is Cairo Santos today in our podcast? Is he a winner or is he a loser? Maybe he's on both lists because
probably can be on both lists.
Right. Props to him for making the kick. But, the 47-yarder he missed, that was big because you thought, that makes it. Well, I think that would have. I don't have the stat sheet in front of me. That the kick that he missed, that would have extended the lead to 9, maybe. And then sure enough, the Vikings come back. But Michael, we can do it, ands and ifs and buts and all that. And, we can do that every game. But if he had missed that kick at the end yesterday and that just squeaked in, it's just bang, tucked in there, now left upright. If he misses that kick, can you imagine the heat that team is getting today to cut him? 2 missed kicks, blow a lead in the fourth quarter. It's a total different vibe today, total different narrative today. So, look, you can say that about a lot of plays, every game, any sport, but, he made it. And I know he's beloved by his teammates. And I had heard, he did a post-game interview with on the field. I know you were busy, you're probably hustling down to the locker rooms. But I think they wanted to interview just Caleb, and he insisted they interview Cairo. So, and better than me, and I know you like Cairo. Seems like a good dude. He had that little fun dance in the post game, and I'm sure he's a likable teammate. But it's a business. And again, I don't hate the guy. I know people like to joke about how much angst, I guess, for lack of a better word, that I have for Cairo Santos. I don't, as a lifelong Bears fan, I root for every guy who puts out a jersey for the Bears. But I'm still not sold on him. But he made the game-winning kick. Bottom line, it didn't. Maybe it just missed, but it just made it. However you want to look at it, glass half full, glass half empty. He made it, so good for him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, he shouldn't have missed that kick. You should make a 45-yard field goal. He said his range was 61. He was making 60-yard kicks in warm-ups. The 54-yard field goal they did make actually made him the Bears' all-time leader in 50-plus yard kicks. He passed Robbie Gould. So listen, I see Rick here chiming in saying that I'm the only one who believes in Cairo. Listen, I'm not here telling you that Cairo is the best kicker in the NFL. I have never said that once. And that's not a diss against him. He's not making all these crazy kicks. All I'm saying is it's very clear to me that the Bears don't think they have a kicker on their roster that is better than Cairo because, and quite honestly, I'm not trying to, say anything negative about Jake Moody, take any shots that he doesn't deserve. I'm not trying to go after him either. But a team has also not claimed him off the practice squad in the month and a half that he's been on the Bears. So and there have been teams that need kicker help. The Giants need kicker help. Like other teams need kicker help. So I feel like that just kind of tells you what the situation is right now, But yeah. Again, I don't want to spend too much time on kicker talk. We're already half hour in. I just felt like Cairo should get some Santos. Some flowers here.
Talk about it for better or worse. Absolutely.
Right. All right, let's get to the negative here because this is far from a perfect game. I quite honestly think there are more negatives from this game, even though you win. Yeah. But Joe, what is your first loser from this game?
Wow, again, there's like 10 options on the board here. I'll just grab one. I guess the pass rush, that was really disappointing. What happened? What the heck happened? They got close a couple of times, but hardly enough. Young quarterback. And J.J. McCarthy, gosh, he's just not good right now. He's a nice young man. You hate to take like the personal stuff into account because it doesn't matter, right? You got to be neutral here. Like I don't care if the guy's the nicest guy in the world. Can he play or can he play? But he's a nice young man, local boy, right? If he's not playing for the Bears, maybe you root for him. But he's not good right now. He's just not good. This was in Jackson Dart. That kid scared the heck out of me all game at that Giants game the week before. He's not Lamar, and he can move, but he's not going to scramble like crazy on you and drive you nuts. And the Bears got zero pressure on him. I will say this, Sweat was quiet. My guy, Austin Booker, did nothing on the stat sheet, but Booker was close a couple times. He knocked over the left tackle one play. He gets good leverage. I'm encouraged with Booker, but we still got to see production, not only from him, but Montez, everybody. And even, I don't know if it was scheme. I don't know why you couldn't find a way to at least take McCarthy down at least once, even though it was a blitz. That's just inexcusable. 0 sacks. Against who's essentially a rookie quarterback in the league in McCarthy, inexcusable yesterday for me.
Yeah, and I'm sure Dennis would take the blame a little bit here, but I don't know how much I don't know if it's really much of a scheme thing. I think it's just the horses that you have out there at this point. I mean, it's just you're not getting pressure. You got no sacks. JJ McCarthy, every mistake that he made yesterday was on his own. Yeah, on his own. Like you did not create much pressure at all on him. Like, well, we can get into the JJ thing too, but the Bears don't have a pass rush right now. I think Montez Sweat is able to make an impact sometimes, but the Vikings offensive linemen are good. They're able to kind of double team Sweat and take him away from the game. I think Booker maybe got through almost 1 or 2 times, but and I know Grady Jarrett actually did a good job to create pressure toward the end on that Kevin Byard interception, I think it was. But other than that, you're not getting it much out of that group. And that's not good because, listen, what are you going to do against Jalen Hurts? What are you going to do against Jordan Love? What are you going to do against Jared Goff? Against Brock Purdy? Like these quarterbacks are mobile, but can also stay in the pocket and hurt you if you give them 5 or 6 seconds. I don't know what the time ended up being for however much, but yeah, I agree with you, Joe. This is the number one thing that I'm worried about over the offseason. Yeah. It's getting pass rush help and the left tackle. Then that's not to say anything against Theo Benedict. I think if you want to be a Super Bowl contender, playoff contender, you just got to make an upgrade there too. But that's the number one thing I'm looking for right now because the Bears just don't have a pass rush, and they didn't really have one this entire season. And that's really going to bite them, if not in the regular season against good teams, like in the playoffs. Are you kidding me? Like that's just going to if a playoff caliber quarterback has the time that J.J. McCarthy had yesterday, that game was a blowout. Like there's no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah.
I will go with I don't want to pile on the local kid. I like JJ. He's a good guy. But man, those misses were tough. Those were, I felt bad. Like after the 4th or 5th time, like the locals were starting to boo him and all that sort of stuff. And I know he's been injured. He missed his entire rookie season. But some of those, he's just airmailing them. He's just missing them. And that is also another reason why I'm not skeptical about the win. A win in the NFL is a win in the NFL. I'm not taking that away from the Bears, but that game is very different if he at least makes half of those passes. And then if Jordan Addison doesn't drop a couple, when he does get it to Jordan Addison, if he doesn't drop 2 balls, like the first one was guaranteed to be at least a 40-yarder if he doesn't get into the end zone. The second one could have had at least a first down, if not more. So maybe it's a double thing of like JJ McCarthy, but also your defense, because JJ McCarthy's poor play bailed you out because you were getting no pass rush against him, like you said. And if it wasn't for the 2 turnovers, which again, I know takeaways are takeaways. You work for those takeaways. I'm not trying to take that away either, but you can't live and succeed by only forcing takeaways. We've seen them not be able to do that and kind of bite them. And I think if JJ doesn't miss some of those throws, yesterday would have been a very different result.
Yeah, he was missing high, he was missing low, and then he throws a beautiful pass to Addison. What was that in the first quarter, second quarter? Not off one hand, off both hands. Like you said, Michael, that's probably 40 yards. Maybe he gets into the end zone. So it's just like with Caleb. When Caleb does throw an accurate one, they're dropping it lately. So it's just tough to watch McCarthy. And you're like, well, good for the Bears because, like you said, any other QB, and you probably lose the game.
All right, Joe, who's your second loser?
Well, I'm going to go with Caleb. I just think, you know what? And they hadn't gone 3 and out to start the game all season. And then it happened yesterday. But the long throws, missing Rome, missing DJ like by 5 yards. My goodness. And we just have not seen that, the consistency with the long ball from Caleb since going back to last year. And I'm looking at like the first quarter of the game. Like, what have you worked on all week? How can you come out and be this bad? And then he finishes 16 for 32. What? 16 for 32? That's horrible. And that McCarthy, I think, had identical numbers. I think they were both 16 for 32. And there's too many. So I look at like, where are the incompletions coming from? Okay, there's some drops, but then it's the holding, scrambling, spins away from a guy. Wow, wasn't that spectacular? And then he heaves it into the stands, doing the smart thing finally to throw it away. That should happen once a game. It's happening too much. So, and it's hard for me, like, is that credit to Minnesota's secondary? Good coverage there, props to them, or are guys, and watching the game on TV as I do, you're there. I don't know if guys are open and he's just missing them the first read. I don't know, but it's unacceptable. And you keep waiting for him to get some consistency, not only during games, but week to week to week. He doesn't have to throw for 300, 350 every game, but more consistent. But the good news with Caleb, again, and then it's been the storyline all year, like we talked about at the beginning of the podcast, does protect the football, which is huge. Look at Sam Darnold, had monster numbers yesterday. He also had a monster number with 4 interceptions. So you can't have that stuff. And Caleb hasn't done that. And that's going back to last year too, where he protected the ball. Sometimes people thought he was doing it too much. Like, just don't be worried about throwing the interception. Just throw it. And maybe the guy catches it and you get 30 yards out of it. But it just wasn't good again. And that first quarter, Michael, this whole game, you tell me if you agree, that whole game yesterday, that's not one you keep like, oh, I can't wait to watch this game again. That was a stinker of a game.
No, both offenses were terrible, especially at the end. That was just bad. Like, they were just missing throws left and right. And it's interesting because I didn't, when the game ended, after I got over the fact that they somehow did that again, and I was like, well, I'm just going to have to write the same story again. But I didn't leave that game feeling that the team lost because Caleb didn't do anything great. But I also didn't think that they won because of it. Was a game where I feel like Caleb was just kind of neutral, right? Mm-hmm. I feel like I agree to the point of those first 2 drives where he misses Rome by a step and then he misses a DJ Moore by 5 yards. It's so interesting to me because I don't know what is wrong, and I don't think anyone does. But Caleb was a deep passer in college. Like, he could hit on some big plays, and he can really toss it out. And a year and a half into his career, that's really been a struggle for him, and I'm really curious to know why. I don't know whether it's the coming out of center. I don't know whether it's, just getting in sync and that sort of stuff. But the lack of having that threat of a long ball is kind of concerning, right? Because that kind of approaches the way your defense defends you. I don't think any secondary is going to be like, we're not going to be worried about the deep pass. We're just going to let it happen because Caleb can't hit. Like Caleb, I'm sure will hit him. Like he hit a wide open Luther Burden on that Hail Mary passing. Like he can air it out, but the inconsistency is so interesting to me because I don't know why. Because heck, he made that crazy throw when he was kind of rushed. I forget exactly who it was. To Luther Burden to pick up a first down on third down, where how did he make that throw? Like that should have been intercepted. And then like he also like finds Colston Loveland with a step, and then he hits DJ Moore with a pass that I can't believe DJ Moore dropped. Like that was a perfect throw by Caleb that DJ Moore dropped. So that's why I'm kind of with you, where I'm just kind of like, man, like you didn't lose because of him, but you didn't win because of him. It was just kind of a neutral game. It's just kind of. And I also like I think the blitz really affected him. I think Brian Flores completely changed things up from their first matchup, and he was really blitzing with different packages. You saw that late in the game, especially once he got the pressure at him. I mean that Vikings defensive line is very talented. It's one of those things where it's kind of, you weren't playing against a bad D-line. That D-line is talented even without Grenard. Brian Flores is a defensive mastermind, and he got to Caleb toward the end of the game. So. It is one of those things where I'm kind of like, man, you're missing on those throws, and those are explosives that you really need to make. But then it's also the mindset where it's like, well, Brian Flores is also a fantastic defensive coach, and that pass rush, I don't know what you're supposed to do at that point. Like there are a lot of times, especially with the run, where the ball is snapped and there were 3 Vikings already around the ball or around Caleb. It's kind of like, well, how are you supposed to get out of that? So that's why I'm kind of like, I'm conflicted, where I'm kind of like, I'm not here to say that he's bust. I'm not here to say that you lost that game because of him, but I'm just kind of like, I could see both arguments today, a day after a win.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're 7-3. Yay, go Bears, play the song. But we know, every fan knows what it's all about. It's about winning a Super Bowl someday. Maybe it won't be with this group, this regime, but that's what you want to see. And to get there, they're not even in the playoffs yet. We'll get to that like maybe later, if they can make it. But you got to win because of the quarterback. We all know that. The Bears know that. And right now they're still not winning. And again, I'm not ready to throw in the towel on the guy after a year and a half and that big arm and all that athletic ability and big playability, clutch ability, all that. But it gets frustrating.
All right, my second loser. After throwing flowers at Ben Johnson, I am going to criticize Ben Johnson. And I didn't understand the play calling sometimes. I didn't understand the decision making. In the fourth quarter, you need to pick up some yards, and with all due respect, but I know that the refs missed a face mask call on Travis Homer, but why is Travis Homer on third down? Why is he in there in that moment? Why is he getting his first carry of the season in that moment? In their last drive, on the drive where Cairo Santos missed the field goal, they were moving the ball great down the field. Caleb picked up some great passes. They were running the ball really well. And for some reason, Ben decides to throw it on first down, and that just derails the whole set of plays. And then the Bears are forced to kick that 45-yard field goal, and then Cairo Santos misses that kick. There were just some moments yesterday where I was kind of like, man, Caleb doesn't seem to have it today. Something seems off with him. He's not totally in cue. Run the ball. Get Kyle Monangai more involved. Get Roshan Johnson to look in there too. I thought getting DJ Moore on that pitch run, they picked up a first down on, that was a good call. I like that. So, for how much I praised him, I didn't love the play calling. We'll hear from Ben here in about like half an hour. He's always very honest, and he'll say, like, I could have done a better job of play calling, and I'm sure he'll say that, but I didn't understand the play calling sometimes. It just felt like he wasn't riding with what was working so well for him at that point.
Yeah, and they tried the trick play in the second half where they put Tyson Bagent out there like they're going to fake the reverse to him. Vikings were like, oh, seeing it, got it, lost on the play. Then they snuffed that out. That
did work. Well, I don't hate the first time they did it. It worked. They picked up the first down on third down because they thought, they ran it twice. The first time they ran it, they did pick up a first down. So that's great. But to do it a second time, they know what's coming, right? Like they know you're not using him seriously. So that's the part that I don't agree with. You doing it a second time in the same game, that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then at the end, Michael, after the big kick return by Duvernay to get him not in field goal range but to the 40, then they got ultra conservative. You had a little more time there. I know and if Caleb throws a pass and it gets intercepted,
Yeah, I mean, then he's
you're hearing
getting
it all
yelled at for that.
day. But I just thought it was like it reminded me of Bears coaches past where, okay, we're at the 35. We got plenty of time. And you got plenty, we're in field goal range. You're not. And knowing your kicker is not the best at long field goals, I would have liked to seen them just be a little more creative, at least, even if it was just running the football to get a little closer there. And it was, I mean, that was a 48-yarder to win it. Was a 48-yarder to win it. I don't know if that's a 50-yarder if he makes it, because that ball was starting to tail a little bit. I don't know. Again, he made it, and good for him. But yeah, there wasn't. Look, when you score 19 points, even if you win, no one's raving about what a terrific offensive show you put on, and he runs the offense. So there you go.
All right, Joe, who's your final loser from yesterday?
Final loser. Where do I want to go here? Well, just, gosh, where do I want to go? You got to go special teams here. Was that my first one?
No, you went with the pass rush for your first one.
Pass rush, then Caleb. I'm going to go with special teams. Just bad again. They seem to clean it up the previous week against the Giants. It was good. But then Blackwell runs into the punt returner. Was it Price, the kid, Miles Price? Then he had the big kickoff return, punt return in the fourth quarter. And that kind of changed the momentum. And then they punched it into the end zone. All of a sudden, they got their first touchdown. And now it's a ball game. That happened. The missed field goal by Santos. It was just, and that Price kid was good on the returns, not just the 50-yard or whatever it was to set up the touchdown by the Vikings. It's just the special teams again were not good. You almost lost the game because of special teams.
Yeah, there were a couple penalties too. I think obviously Carl missed a kick. I didn't think Torrey Taylor was anything spectacular yesterday. He was averaging like 49 yards per kick. I think that's what it ended up being. So for how much the special teams redeemed itself, obviously winning the game the way they did. It wasn't a good spot. The offense and the defense I know blew the lead, but I feel like that the defense kind of won you that game yesterday with those 2 turnovers. Sure. But the offense and the special teams, I didn't really feel like did the team any favors yesterday outside of those critical moments. All right, my final loser is just kind of a quick one, but you had an opportunity for weeks. I've heard Ben Johnson say, I've heard Caleb say, I've heard players say, we got to put away games when they're there, when we have the opportunity. We don't want to keep living this way, winning on last-second field goals, winning on walk-off, touchdown passes, because that's not sustainable, right? You need to learn how to win. And I thought the Bears they had a great opportunity to do it. They were winning 16-3, then it was 16-10, and then you had 2 opportunities offensively to put the game away. And the Bears didn't do it. They didn't have that. They've been talking about that killer instinct about putting games away, and that's something that the Bears have not done up to this point. It's great that they have the killer instinct of never dying and never thinking that the game is going to be over. But if you want to be a winning football team, if you want to compete for playoff contention, Super Bowls, you got to put away bad teams when you can, because the Philadelphia Eagles will make you pay for those mistakes. The Packers will make you pay, right? The 49ers I know they're beat up pretty well, but the guys who are there are well coached and well prepared, and they will make sure that the Bears, aren't able to capitalize or squeak out these type of wins. So that's just kind of a big picture looking ahead kind of situation where the Bears have not developed that killer instinct of putting games away. And you need to figure that out, whether it's against Pittsburgh in the next week or you need to get some examples of that, because it nearly cost you once again. And the Bears just haven't been able to do it all season long this year.
Yeah, I think if they ever get to be where they want to be, you're not going to be having games where you're relying on the kicker to kick 3 or 4 field goals. And that's been the case, I think, 3 games now, whether it was Jake Moody or it's been Cairo twice. Cairo I think it was the Raiders game. Moody was the Washington game. And then yesterday, Cairo ended up with 3 field goals or 4. I mean, it was just like
it was 4 or 5.
Right, it was 4 or 5. No more of that. No one wants the game to come down to the kicker. No one, right? The offense doesn't, the defense doesn't, because then like you bust your butt if you're an offensive guy, your defense all game, and then our kicker lets us down. Well, don't put him in that position then. Take care of it beforehand. And to me, this is more on the offense. The defense has been so darn banged up all year, starting with Jalen Johnson. It's just been so many injuries. TJ Edwards. The offense, I know, Loveland missed the game here. Burden missed the game there. They've been healthy. The offensive line, the Braxton Jones thing, he's been hurt. But really, Michael, right? I mean, they've been healthy on offense. The quarterback hasn't missed a game. Swift missed the 1 game. Okay, but nothing like season-ending knock on wood for anybody. They got to do more. And I know it's a work in progress, all the cliches, that's stuff we've been talking about it. And I'm not dissing any of that as just as excuses, but they just got to be better. So you don't have to rely on whether it's Cairo Santos or Jake Moody or some other guy they pluck off the waiver wire to kick for the week. They shouldn't have to come down to that. And they're not going to get to where they want to be until, they got to get healthy on defense or just get better personnel, period. And maybe that comes in the offseason, hopefully. But the offense has got to start. This is why Ben's here. And it's just too inconsistent.
No, I think, listen, you play with fire too many times, eventually you're going to get burned, right? And it's fun. I'm not trying to take anything away. They're 7-3. Like Robert is saying, top of the NFC North guys, come on, less of the negativity. And I understand all that. I understand that this is completely, listen, talking about this is much better than what we were doing this time last year when they lost 10 straight, right? Like I understand that. But listen, this also comes with winning, right? Like if you want to be a contender, you have to pick out stuff during wins and you have to look at the grand picture. And that's what we're going to do here before we say goodbyes, folks. Some things that happened since we last talked, since the Bears decided to do everything after we talked the live stream. The Bears activated Jalen Johnson's practice window on Friday to come off IR. He practiced in limited fashion on, when was that? On Friday. They were being tongue-in-cheek and put him as questionable for the game. There was no shot that he was going to play in that game after one practice being limited, but I appreciate the effort there. Maybe they're being just overly transparent after what the Ravens kind of did to them a little bit earlier in the year. Kyler Gordon has missed his 4th game, so he will be eligible to have his practice window opened up. We'll hear from Ben Johnson here in half an hour, but I would assume if everything goes according to plan, and based on what Ben has said in the past, he said that they're thinking on the shorter term on the IR. So there's a good chance that they can activate his practice window this week. And we'll be interested to see whether TJ Edwards comes back. He missed the last couple games after having hand surgery. He's going to have to play with the club for the rest of the season. And he's also been dealing with that hamstring injury. So we'll see whether that's, I am curious. We haven't gotten a chance to ask Ben. I am curious to know whether that's more of a hamstring issue than it is a hand issue, because listen, I've never broken my hand and tried to play a football game later, so I don't really know what it's like, how quickly it takes to get the club and get used to playing with the club and all that sort of stuff. But we'll see what that kind of looks like. But Joe, if we're talking about injuries and all that sort of stuff, the Bears are getting 3 huge guys back potentially. In a week, in the next few weeks at least, the Bears are getting 3 starters back that could really help your defense here, play even at a higher level.
Well, it's huge here. Again, you still have 7 games left. And if you can get, I'm not even worried about the next couple of weeks. And I'm thinking more down the stretch. Because again, it's not like the Bears are going to clinch a playoff berth with 3 weeks to go. I mean, it's going to go right down to the wire for them, as it does for a lot of teams in the league, right? But if you can get those guys back for the final 3-4 games of the season, to me, that's a definite plus, especially if they can get back to where they were. Like if Jalen Johnson is Jalen Johnson and Kyler Gordon is Kyler Gordon and TJ is really is not affected by wearing the club, on his hand, on his arm, fantastic. Those are absolutely 3 huge additions. That's the one way you can get better without having to worry about scheme or the opponent. Is just getting those guys on the field. So that would be huge. TJ, I mean, one of the best things about his game is he tackles, he's sure-handed tackler. I mean, imagine it's got to be tough to tackle with the club. Again, me neither. I have never played football with the club. Nerf ball doesn't count, I guess. So that would be tough. But I hope, because the Bears are a better defensive team with TJ Edwards on the field.
I think you saw that yesterday, right? There were some times where Aaron Jones ran or Mason ran where that defense just needs TJ Edwards. And I think Noah Sewell has played well when he's got his opportunity. I know he got that holding call, but your defense is just better with TJ Edwards. He's a guy that you just need out there. So hopefully we'll be able to get him. But make sure you guys check out with me later this afternoon as Ben Johnson will give us updates. We'll see what the situation kind of looks like with Jalen and Kyler, particularly as they Jalen's got his practice window open, and we'll see what it looks like for Kyler and what his time frame could kind of be back. And Joe, before we say goodbye, I guess we have to start talking about this. This podcast isn't really used to this. We haven't done this in forever, but let's talk about the playoffs. I guess this is the thing that we're going to be doing now. Bears are currently in the number 3 seed in the NFC, which is an insane statement to say after the team started 0-2 this season the way they did. Currently, they'd be playing the Packers as the number 6 seed. They'd be hosting a playoff game, which would be something else. Joe, I mean, you've got. We're not going to go through every single game and be like win loss, but Bears are at 7 wins right now. The mean is going to go. The regression is going to go back to the mean eventually. Here, the Bears are going to lose a game that they might have to win. That's just life in the NFL. But how do you feel about this team getting to that 10 number with what they have left on the schedule and putting themselves in the position where maybe you can get the 6 seed or the 5 seed? Because I think in the NFC North, there's still third favorite choice to win the division. Like, I think the Packers and Lions are still very good teams, regardless of what happened yesterday. But what are your thoughts about what are realistic goals for this team heading into the final 7 weeks here?
Yeah, so we got 7 games left. If you're assuming 10 gets you in 10 wins, they got to go 3-4.
It usually does. Sometimes it doesn't, obviously, but
yeah,
10 is generally a good number. Again, if at the beginning of the season, if we said the Bears won 10 games, I think everyone would be ecstatic.
Sure. So you got to go 3-4, right? It's not going to be easy. Part of me is like, hey, we always talk about, hey, you are what your record says it is. Well, they're 7-3. So while I don't want to, I'm still not convinced they're a good football team. 7-3 says you're a good football team. And the stuff about, winning late, knowing how to close games, that does matter. So I will say they're a good football team. I can't say it with 100% certainty, but they're a good football team. You are what your record says it is. On the other hand, there's part of me, I hear little Coach Ditka saying, I don't know if we're capable of winning another game the rest of the season. When Ditka famously once said that. Part of me is like, I don't know. Could they lose 7 in a row? I don't think they will. I think they'll find a way. But part of me is like, I don't see any game here like, oh, that's a dub. That's a dub. Because we've seen the games where we thought that's a dub. That's a dub. That's Raiders out of Saints. That's a dub. Giants. That's a dub. And those were struggles. So now here come the big boys. And the Packers don't look like, the Packers we thought they were going to be. The Packers are who we thought they were. So I don't know, but I don't see you losing twice there. You got Cleveland still, and now the Steelers come to town. And, late yesterday, is news breaking about Aaron Rodgers breaking his finger or
his wrist.
His wrist.
But non-throwing.
Non-throwing. So is he going to play? Is he going to be like, is he being wearing the club? I don't know. But if that sets up, and the backup is Mason Rudolph, correct?
Yes. He came into the game yesterday, yeah.
So that's like playing out like, boy, you didn't get to face Joey Burrow this year. You didn't have to face Lamar this year. And how are you going to avoid? I know Aaron Rodgers isn't the guy who, terrorized Bears fans forever. He's not that guy anymore, but he's still good. And, he'll be I don't think his confidence will be lacking come Sunday if he takes the field. He'll feel right at home here, as he always has. So, but all of a sudden that's like, all right, now that's maybe a winnable game for you. Even if he was playing or is playing, that's still like, I don't think like that's a definite L. They're capable of winning that game Sunday at home. But this is tough, Michael, because I hate to be so back and forth, can't make up my mind, but that's just where I am. I'm not convinced that the Bears are a playoff team yet. And I'm not convinced that they're that that they're that bad.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I agree. With the Browns coming into town, I mean, you kind of like, well, they'll win. And it's like, well, yes, but you also thought you were going to blow out the Giants and the Vikings and all the other teams. In New Orleans, you're supposed to blow out, and the Bears didn't blow out those teams. They beat New Orleans by double digits, but that game was too close even for what that was. So it'll be interesting, but listen, if you go 3-4 to end the season, that's not a good way to end it, but I think that does get you to 10 wins. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Like you mentioned, that Pittsburgh game, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network said this morning that he wants to play in the game. He's telling people he was going to do everything he can to play in that game on Sunday against the Bears. We'll see. He also said after tearing his ACL that he was going to play in the same season. And, we saw how that worked out. So I don't know. But, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that he wants to come back to Soldier Field maybe for the last time in his career to put it on the Bears one last time. Like, are you kidding me? Like, there's little doubt in my mind that he would do anything it takes. Like, I think it might be disconnected or whatever, and he'll still do it because he just wants to do it one last time. But it'll be interesting to watch. But it is fun to have at least the conversation of, what are the Bears' seedings going to be? What do they have to do to pick up this situation? Can they win the NFC North? It's a very different spot, but it's a fun spot because the Bears have found insane ways to win football games this year.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be Thanksgiving, and the Bears are in the playoff hunt. It's fun. It's infuriating sometimes watching the game. It's it's stressful. But you'd rather be 7-3 than 3-7 and talking about. So who are the top picks in the draft? Who are the top quarterbacks? Who are we looking at? Maybe we're picking 5th or 6th. They're not picking 5th or 6th this year. They're not picking the top 10 this year. So it's nice not to be talking the next April draft in November.
Usually Bears fans are talking about draft positioning. Should we lose out? Should they tank and all that sort of stuff? Like, that's been the conversation the last 4 years. So it is fun to definitely be in a different situation. All right. That's everything that we've got for this episode of the podcast. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the live stream. Thank you for all the comments and the likes. If you're joining us on YouTube, make sure you give us a like and subscribe. That's the best way to support us. Same goes with Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us there, if you did join us there. And if you're listening on the podcast, thanks so much for listening on the podcast. Give us a subscription and give us a review. We really appreciate it. If you want to be part of the live stream conversation, make sure you check out our social medias. I'm at Dwojak94. Joe is at Joe Aguilar 64. We usually talk on Friday and Monday mornings, depending on the schedule. And obviously the Bears travel schedule, my travel schedule. Next week will be a little bit different, obviously, with the short holiday week and the Friday game. But we won't worry about that now. But make sure you're following all my work this week. I'll give you the latest updates, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, Jalen Johnson, all that sort of stuff as we get ready for week number 12, when the Bears will host the Packers. I'm so used to saying that with Aaron Rodgers. The Steelers on Sunday at Soldier Field. But until then, we will hope you guys have a good week, and we will talk to you folks on Friday morning.